Good afternoon, and welcome to Instituting Data-Driven Employee Engagement, a complimentary webinar from healthsystemcio.com. My name is Anthony Guerra. I'm the editor-in-chief of healthsystemcio.com, and I'll be your moderator today. We encourage you to ask questions at any time. You type them in the lower right-hand corner of your screen in the Q&A box. To leave the default set to all panelists, and I'll be looking at those. We'll pose them to our speaker later in the program, but go ahead and send them in as they occur to you. You can download the deck using the URL on your screen. There's a shortened URL at the bottom of each slide, and I will also send it out in the chat box, so plenty of chances to get the deck. And we are recording today's event, so there will be an archive available, usually within 2 business days, if not sooner. You'll get an email when it's ready, and a separate registration is required. So you see how we're going to spend our time today. We're going to go about 40 minutes. First, we're going to hear from our speaker, Chad Eckes, VP and CIO at Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center, and then we'll have our Q&A with Chad. So without further delay, I'm going to turn it over to Chad Eckes. Chad, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Anthony. I'm very excited to be talking to everyone about what we're doing in employee engagement for our IT information technology and services team at Wake Forest Baptist. I'll take everyone through a few key points. First, I'll begin by providing some industry data, talking about the real opportunity that exists in employee engagement, no matter what department you're in. I'll then talk about our Wake Forest situation and the goals for the Information Technology and Services team. I'll explain how we measure employee engagement, and then I'll describe our 10-step plan for managing employee engagement. And I'll cap the discussion off with some examples and ideas that we've instituted and found to be successful. So to begin, there's a macro problem. Low employee engagement is costing the U.S. economy $370 billion annually. And this is a study that was done from the Gallup organization. According to their engagement study, and this was their 8th annual study in 2012, they've looked at 1.4 million employees across numerous organizations, multiple industries, and multiple countries. And what they found is that employee engagement directly correlates with solid business results. And this everything from turnover to absenteeism, shrinkage in their company and their financial results, safety incidents, quality issues, customer metrics, and productivity, of course. Some of the things that, if you look at our industry, for example, there's a couple great examples of improving employee engagement and the direct results on patient satisfaction. A few years ago, I spent some time learning about the General Mass, and what they did for their patient experience is they completely focused on their employee engagement, which they found directly translated into better patient experience and higher satisfaction scores. Ultimately, what this translates to is direct benefits if you can improve employee engagement. So here's some of the costs that lack of employee engagement impacts their employers. The studies have shown an average of $2,246 is spent on disengaged employees annually. Where are these costs spent? Well, those folks tend to miss more work. They're not as productive when they are at work. When they're turning over, there's increased costs to turnover between recruiting costs, training costs, onboarding costs. Productivity alone is figured out in a range of $3,400 to $10,000 annually, just based upon the salary of the employees. There's decreased profitability in sales, and the numbers are all over the place, but it doesn't take a lot to connect the dots that if there is disengaged employees, it's going to impact customer satisfaction, which ultimately impacts profitability and revenue growth. So let me transition to talking about our situation at Wake Forest Baptist Information Technology and Services Department. In the fall of 2012, we launched a massive, big bang, epic implementation. And that implementation was occurring at the exact same time as our PeopleSoft implementation. So I know everybody on the line, or most of you, are coming from an IT background. You can imagine, the troughs of despair that you deal with large projects like that anyways. Folks were very tired. They had spent multiple years putting in these enormous projects. But on the backside of that, there was some negative business impacts as a result of those projects and other factors that were happening at the same time, but it just so happened to coincide with these large projects. And you can imagine there's a lot of focus on IT, a lot of blame storming that goes on when you're in those situations, and the impact on morale was quite significant. I joined the team back almost exactly a year ago. It would have been a year ago last week. And one of the things that the ITS leadership team and I talked about was we got to do something to celebrate the amazing talent that we had on this IT team that had really slugged it out going through these projects, and no pun intended, but the wake of the projects, and getting everything stabilized and starting to move into an optimized state. So we started this employee engagement initiative, and we came up with what our goal for the organization was going to be. And let me just read that for everyone. Our mission is to create an engaged and happy workplace by leveraging regular measurements, frequent and real-time communication, social dynamics, a leading-edge technology environment, and a continual learning environment to engage our employees. So we basically put the stake in the sand and said, this is who we want to be. We want to be celebrating our talent and making sure that, the jobs that everybody's doing, which takes so much of a person's life, that they actually looked forward to it. They had some fun while they're working, and at the same time, we're delivering solid results. We then started looking at our employees and did an initial employee survey, started meeting with all the employees across the group and understanding where we would classify those employees. And we came into three different groupings. The first were our engaged employees. These folks had passion. They had a real connection to the vision, mission, values of Wake Forest Baptist. They drove innovation, and they're really their behaviors didn't need a lot of prompting. They were just kind of fueled by the organization. And for those individuals, we said, we just need to continue to celebrate their achievements and the behaviors, because they're going about everything the right way. Let's just, tell them to keep it up, and in some cases just get out of their way and make sure that they're supported to continue doing their thing. We had a second grouping, and that was the group of folks that they're not engaged. They were kind of in that middle ground state. They essentially were checked out. They come into work every day. They would do their tasks. This wasn't a matter of them not doing their job, but mentally and emotionally, the connection to our vision, mission, and values no longer was there, and they really weren't passionate. This was a job, not a career, and not something that was exciting to them. And in those cases, I'll use a phrase that a mentor of mine came up with years ago, and it said we needed to psychologically rehire these folks. We had to, reignite the passion that they had for the organization in the past, and really, get them to sway over back into the engaged side. And then there was the grouping of our actively disengaged. And actively disengaged folks, we classified, those are the ones that are just plain unhappy to be at work, and they're so unhappy that they're trying to build their camp of unhappy folks, and going through ways of truly acting out that behavior. In those situations, we first started by saying, okay, what's the root of the unhappiness? The organization had gone through a number of reductions in force and things like that. Are they scared maybe that there could be additional reductions in force? Or is it the position that they're specifically in? If they were in a different role, would their passion be reignited, and them to be in a more engaged state? Or is the situation so dire that there really isn't a connection with the vision, mission, value of the organization anymore? And should we have talks about other paths for them to be happier outside of Wake Forest? So we went through all of these different groupings and really created our action plan of how we were going to approach this very significant issue. Of course, as I mentioned, we did an initial assessment so we could understand what our starting point was, and then have a regular measurement of engagement so that we could know what we were actually managing. Our employee engagement survey looked at 14 different areas, and I won't go through and read all of them, but I will tell you that there were a number of these that needed to be focused on, that really would drive the needle of engagement. And I'll highlight a couple of them. Number one was pride. And from the data that we've seen over time, pride in a person's work, pride in the organization that you work for drives engagement, and it's one of the top 3 drivers of engagement. Number 3, communication. Our team would share that they didn't know what was going on. We didn't have all hands meetings. In many teams, there were never any one-on-ones. So it really was an opportunity to take a very simple step and make sure everybody's talked to and they know what's going on in the department. They have a voice to really drive the needle on engagement. Number 4 was celebration. So, every project has their ups and downs, and it's always easy to focus on what's the next problem or issue that needs to be managed. But we always seem to have forgotten about let's get together and celebrate all the good things and the great things that are going on. Number 8 was exceptionally important, and that was trust. trust at multiple levels, and trust tended to be to go hand in hand with leaders that wouldn't delegate because they quote unquote couldn't trust folks to do what needed to be done. So by addressing trust, we also started addressing delegation. And then finally, we bubbled this up to a score, and that was our Net Promoter Score, which is, a industry standard measurement. And I've put this up on the screen here, but our NPS score was the ultimate measure of success or failure on employee engagement. And basically, what the NPS score would tell us was, do we have folks that are promoters of the team, promoting the team not only to, those around them inside of ITS, but outside of the team in the external market for recruiting. That's the type of active engagement that we were looking for, is to be so proud of the work that we're doing that they would tell others. Are they neutral, meaning that they're not disengaged, but they're not so happy about their experience on the team that they would go out and tell others. And then the detractors, those are the individuals that are not happy. They're in active disengagement. They're trying to get others disengaged, and basically trying to poison the water around them. So in this methodology, basically we ask the simple question on a scale of 1 to 10. Would you recommend Wake Forest Baptist Information Technology and Services as a place to work for family or friends? And based upon the response to that single question, we determined, where are we moving the needle on engagement or not? Now, the Net Promoter Score methodology basically is a pretty unforgiving methodology. You start out, and those that would fall in that score of a 9 or 10, those are the folks that are promoters of the experience of working in ITS here. You throw out 7 and 8s because those are your neutral folks, and they're not helping or hurting. And we take all the detractors, anybody that scored us a 1 through 6, and in that grouping are the folks that are, not in favor of the experience here. And then we subtract the promoters from the detractors to figure out where we stand in terms of our NPS score. I'll tell you, when we did this the first time, we had a very negative score, which I quite honestly have never seen a negative NPS. And it gave us a baseline to start working from, and when we've done these surveys, we've made very good progress forward, actually remarkable over the last year. So, okay, we've been able to measure it. We knew where the issues and opportunities existed. The next was, how are we going to manage this? And the first was to really set some expectations with our leadership team about being servant leaders, and then showing them what a servant leadership culture would look like. We had actually published a ITS leadership guidelines book, if you will, of 25 different key points explaining what was expected and how this would be typically demonstrated in an environment. And then we really just focused folks on our plan for building engagement. So walking through that, we have a 10-step plan for doing this. The first part was we were going to individualize the program for each one of our employees. And one of the things that we've become very clear on is that programs that treat all employees the same way in terms of engagement don't work. Different things motivate different people, and it was the job of leadership here to understand on a one-on-one basis what was going to motivate that individual employee. For some folks, it may be the latest, greatest technology and making sure that they're expanding their skills and being on the bleeding edge. Others, it was that regular pat on the back that they needed to know they were just doing a good job. And yet again, there were others that just wanted to be in the know and, you know, not and be able to see what the what's going on in the world around them. So to do this, we set a new standard for leadership here. Every leader would have a minimum of a 1 hour meeting, one-on-one meeting with their staff each month, and that certainly was a minimum. We have some leaders that try to get this in weekly at that level. The second item was focusing on talent, making sure that we have the right people on the bus, that those folks are in the right seat on the bus, and ensuring that they're feeling good about that role. It maps to their career path and what they want to do. So how this translated from a leadership standpoint is we would work with employees to build career step plans. So, you know, in that career step plan, we say, okay, here's the position you're in, the expectations of the position, where you're currently performing at. Now, the next position in your career plan would be position Y, and that's something that, you know, the employee would tell the leader about, and then they would walk through, you know, does that make sense as that next step? Then they would come up with, here are the criteria it would take for you to move to that position and how you would demonstrate that you're ready for it. And then they would look at a position that is N+2, where it would be that kind of stretch goal further into the future so that they can keep their eye on the ball. And, you know, it was very shocking for many of us going through this process to learn that there were folks that really didn't want to be in the position they were in. They somehow over the years had gotten slotted into the position, pigeonholed, and part of their lack of engagement was because they weren't doing what they had passion for. Next, we wanted to make sure everybody had purpose, and we did that by, you know, trying to regularly reinforce vision, mission, and values in the department. You could not find our vision, mission, and values anywhere in the ITS organization historically, and we created a process where, you know, number one, we would on any major meeting make sure that these were read and highlighted, and second, we created a routine called our daily wake up, and the daily wake up is a 15-minute huddle. It's done in all the IT locations. So originally we had 3 primary buildings where IT was in. We've since consolidated, but we huddle the teams together on each floor of those buildings daily to the first thing we go over is vision, mission, and values. The next thing is we do celebrations of talent. We celebrate anniversaries. We celebrate birthdays. We talk about key things that are going on, leadership highlights, and we throw in fun facts about the area and the day in history. Fourth, we focused on positivity, and you know, the positivity was, you know, regularly looking at all the successes that are occurring every day. There's a lot of venues to talk about issues and on projects and stuff like that. We created the venues to celebrate, and we did things like all department emails. The daily wake up obviously serves a big purpose in our celebrations, but we put together a committee that was completely focused on throwing parties and celebrations based upon the different holidays and the like. Fifth, we focused on communication with a very extensive communication plan. The concept of openness and transparency hadn't existed for a long time on the team. So, we started immediately with doing monthly all-hands meetings. Each team started doing regular meetings. The senior IT leadership got together twice a week on Mondays and Fridays to discuss the week in front of us and the week behind us, and what we needed to do from a talent level to drive engagement, and what we needed to do to help promote the environment. So sixth, we focused on development and trying to create this into a learning environment, sending people to training. We identified multiple transferable skills that we felt everybody would value learning about. So right now we actually are rolling out an ITIL course series with certifications across the entire ITS organization. We are running, have just finished pulling together our business analysis course series that will be rolled out to most of our analysts in the group, and that will teach them skills like requirements gathering, use cases, process modeling, unit testing, stuff that folks had never received formal training on. And then we have a similar course series wrapped around project management. Up and beyond that, we invested heavily in new technical skills. The development aspect was important for a couple reasons. One, people hadn't gone through development in a long time, and there was a large thirst for it. Two, we were overladen with consultants, some of which kept on coming in because we needed expertise. By developing our teams, we were able to give them the skills to be on the interesting assignments, which made them more engaged, and at the same time it was reducing our needs for consultants. Next was our assignments, and the type of work assignments we were going to be providing folks. We had a lot of legacy technology still in the department, even though we're a large Epic shop now and a large PeopleSoft shop. So we started promoting some of the bleeding edge stuff that we're doing, like our hybrid cloud initiative on converged infrastructure. We were getting people trained on B-block technology. We're rolling out a new EMC data lake right now, so it's another great opportunity where folks have great excitement to be working with Data Lake and the Greenplum MPP solution and Hadoop and all of these tools that they were reading about but they couldn't get their hands on. While we've been fixing a lot of stuff because there were a lot of stabilization efforts that needed to be completed, we wanted to also ensure that we were providing a culture of innovation. So in one of our town halls, I asked how many people had an innovative idea in the last few years that never went anywhere. And across the audience, there was about 350 hands that went up that there was something they came up with that just never made its way forward. And but they wanted to. And then I asked the same question: how many people like to maintain and support the existing environments, I got one hand. So this was obviously something very important to the group. So we carved out time and made it a priority, and said we'll come up with 5 innovative projects, meaning they either had new to the world or early adoption opportunity at Wake Forest Baptist. So that has driven engagement significantly by allowing people to do some really cool things. We also made folks accountable. We held them accountable and to fulfill their responsibilities and empowered people to make the needed decisions. So that accountability factor, if folks believe that they're doing their job, but their colleague is not, and they're being treated the same way, all of a sudden the person that's doing their job and doing it well becomes disengaged, because it's a why bother if so-and-so is never going to get managed for not doing their job. So we started holding everybody equally as accountable, standard measures as far as the performance appraisals, and we addressed those issues as they would come up. And finally, we started promoting the concept that close personal relationships at work are an important thing. There were parts of our culture here where leaders felt it wasn't part of their job to get to know their employee personally. It was, separation of personal lives from professional. And we changed that story out there and helped people understand that, people like working for people they like. And, if we can, bridge people's personal and professional lives more and make sure that, there's an understanding of what's going on in a person's personal life, it actually yields a more engaged employee. So that ended up being a very different cultural exercise for the organization. So that was our 10-step plan, and I'll share a couple examples and ideas. We keep on throwing things at walls and seeing what sticks. Some things worked really well. Others, needed to be tweaked before we saw the value of it, and then still others we had to throw out. Our daily wake-up process is one of the things that worked marginally well at first, and then we tweaked it, and we found that it has become a great cultural paradigm since the tweaking. So as I mentioned before, every day we have one of these little huddles at 8:30, and in the huddle, we talk about vision, mission, values, birthdays, anniversaries, high fives, leadership keynotes, and then fun facts. We find that this is that opportunity where people can actually pat themselves on the back, as well as leadership can pat folks on the back. We used a tool from the Talent Plus organization called Focus on You, and we do this in a lot of key meetings. What the tool does is it's a simple questionnaire to be done in a group of, up to 8 to 10 folks, but you just ask a couple key questions to get people talking right away. Ask them, what their name is, and it's specifically, what would they like to be called. What we found was like 30% of the folks actually didn't go by their legal names. We asked people what they get paid to do. We asked them for their hot buttons, some successes that they're really proud of, what they do best, and then their goals in life. So by doing this, as I mentioned, it's that icebreaker that, number one, connects people at a different level than existed previously, but it also gets people engaged in the discussion instead of just entering a meeting and starting out cold most of the meeting is spent listening versus being engaged. We created an employee awards program. Now, the employee awards program was modeled after Gilligan's Island. In one of our Focus on You sessions, the team learned that my Chime nickname, my group of friends at Chime, we all decided one year to give each other nicknames, and my Chime nickname is Gilligan. So they decided that our awards program should be the Gilligan's Island awards program. And with this, it's, every year an employee will be voted into each one of these awards. One of the highlights I'd like to make on this is our SS Minnow Shipwreck Award. And we tried to tie the concept of innovation and failed innovations here into this award. We want people to fail in terms of innovations. Without failure, you'll never come up with the key innovations, and this was our way to promote that type of behavior. And then we had our standard suggestion box for Q&As, something that has worked really well, and especially since we set standards of being able to get back to people right away when they do provide suggestions to us. So these were just a couple of ideas and examples that we found have worked and have been very positive and fun for the department as a whole, and helped in driving some of our employee engagement. With that, I'd love to answer any questions.
Very good. Well, thanks so much, Chad. A great presentation. As I mentioned at the beginning of the program, go ahead, type your questions into the Q&A box. Leave the default set to all panelists, and we'll get those in front of Chad. Chad, you talked about, you mentioned employees that are out there that might be undermining the work of other engaged employees on one of your slides. How can you go about, as a leader, how do you go about finding out about those kind of employees without asking the employees that you trust to become spies and report on their colleagues who are acting that way?
Anthony, it was, we don't go out specifically targeting and looking for those folks. I think, the leaders can tell when they have somebody in that state, because it's going to be the naysayer that's in every one of their meetings, and they're kind of constantly acting out. So they can intervene on some of those measures, but our approach is quite honestly at the opposite end. Our goal is to build the pool of actively engaged employees to be so large and strong that those employees just won't tolerate the negativity of an actively disengaged individual. So, it becomes kind of a fruitless, venture if you're constantly trying to rid yourself of the negativity. And we viewed it as, let's just work on our strengths and work on those keep on doing and strengthening the things that are working for us.
Very good. Question from the audience. How did you overcome skepticism on the part of employees, especially the long-term ones and the long-time ones, the ones that have been there for a while?
Sure. Some of this was just having to, prove ourselves. So I have a great example. There's an individual on our networking team, phenomenal Cisco guy, has been here forever, and he basically kept our enterprise together with very little investment and reinvestment in his network. So when we sat down and we were chatting about what needed to be done, I said, I don't want to give names here, but to this employee, I said, you know, what do you need? He's like, I need new investments in technologies here so that I can support the organization better. And you know, I had shared, here's my plan from an infrastructure standpoint. Start moving to converged infrastructure. We need to get all of our end-of-life gear out of the network. Start migrating to you know, a higher speed network with new equipment that is supported, and so on and so forth. And he kind of looked at me going like, you know, okay, heard that before, you know, be business as usual. So, you know, that ended up being a challenge, and proving to the individual that we're going to live up to our promises, that I would do my job into explaining for the organization our risks and educating them where the investments needed to occur. And as a result, when it did actually happen, you know, he became a very actively engaged individual in this because, you know, we lived up to the promise. So this, in many cases, ended up being, you know, making sure we under-promise and over-deliver, but doing, you know, making sure that, you know, we were walking our talk, I guess, was the biggest thing.
Very good. Next question. Do you encourage your team to boast about accomplishments and celebrations via social media, using things like Twitter and leveraging hashtags, those type of things?
Yes, we do. We actually rolled out Yammer internally so that we can give those high fives and celebrations. There's certain things that I personally will throw out on Twitter and LinkedIn regarding the team, especially when, you know, there's something broad in nature that want to give folks a pat on the back about. But you know, we find, again, it matters to some folks that there's more public recognition beyond the enterprise, and it's really on an individual by individual basis. So that is one tool in our tool chest.
Very good. Next question. What is the score of the engagement survey now?
38%, and that's up from our negative score the first time, and we're actually going to be doing our employee survey again this month.
Okay. Do members of the senior leadership team participate in your celebrations?
Yes. And senior leadership, I'm assuming that means IT senior leadership, but we very much do, both from a daily basis in our daily wake-ups to the things that we do, like the picnics where senior IT leadership was cooked for the rest of the group. Thank goodness no one got food poisoning. But, you know, we're always there amongst the group.
Well, very good. That is about all we had time for today, and I want to thank Chad again for a great presentation on an important topic, and I want to thank our attendees for coming today. Obviously, employee engagement can do wonders for healthcare if we get it improved out there. As I mentioned, you'll receive an email when our archive recording is ready, and a separate registration is required. For those of you who hold the CHIME CHCIO certification, attending our webinars gets you 1 CEU. So if you've asked us to let CHIME know about your attendance, we will. If not, don't forget to let CHIME know that you were here today. Questions, comments, reach out to me, and you can go to our website to see our last 12 months of archived events and our upcoming schedule. So again, I want to thank Chad, our attendees, and everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you.